The alien sun cast long shadows across the purple-hued landscape as Finn Reeves checked his oxygen levels for the third time in as many minutes. The atmosphere on this uncharted planet was breathable, but barely. He'd need to return to his ship soon. Finn's boots crunched on the crystalline soil as he crested another ridge. His heart raced with excitement. He was the first human to set foot on this world. The thrill of discovery had driven him to the far reaches of known space, and now here he was, light years from Earth, documenting an alien ecosystem teeming with bioluminescent flora and exotic fauna. A distant screech pierced the air, reminding Finn that not all of this planet's inhabitants were friendly. He instinctively reached for the pulse rifle slung across his back, his muscles tensing as he scanned the horizon. That's when he saw her. At first, Finn thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The figure stumbling across the crystalline plain seemed almost human, but impossibly tall and lithe. As she drew closer, he realized she was anything but human. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent blue hue, and her long silver hair flowed behind her like liquid moonlight. But what struck Finn most were her eyes, large, almond-shaped, and a deep violet that seemed to hold the mysteries of the cosmos. She was injured. Dark purple blood oozed from a gash in her side, and her gait was unsteady. Despite her obvious pain, she carried herself with a warrior's pride. Finn's scientific curiosity warred with his survival instincts. This was a first-contact situation, potentially dangerous, definitely unprecedented, but the alien was clearly in distress. He couldn't just leave her. "Hello," he called out, wincing at how inadequate the greeting sounded. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" The alien's head snapped up, her violet eyes locking onto Finn with laser-like intensity. She barked out a series of clicks and whistles that his universal translator struggled to decipher. Enemy, threat, defend. The fractured translation came through, moments before the alien warrior lunged at Finn with startling speed. Finn barely had time to raise his arms in defense before she was upon him. Despite her injury, her strength was incredible. They grappled in the purple dust, Finn desperately trying to avoid the wickedly sharp claws that sought his throat. "Wait," he gasped, struggling to break free. "I'm not your enemy. I want to help." Whether it was his words or simply her weakened state, the alien's attacks began to slow. Finn managed to pin her arms, looking directly into those mesmerizing violet eyes. "My name is Finn," he said slowly, hoping his translator was working both ways. "I'm a human explorer. I mean you no harm. Please, let me help you." The alien went still, studying Finn with an intensity that made him feel like she was peering into his very soul. After what felt like an eternity, she relaxed slightly in his grip. "Nara," she said, the word coming through clearly. "I am Nara." Finn cautiously released her, ready to defend himself if needed. But Nara simply sat back, one hand pressed to her wounded side. "You are not like the others," Nara said, her words becoming clearer as the translator adapted to her language. "What others?" Finn asked, his curiosity piqued. "Are there more humans here?" Nira shook her head, her silver hair catching the alien sunlight. "Not human. Hunters. They seek to capture, to enslave." Finn's mind raced. Other alien species, slavers. The implications were staggering. He pushed his questions aside for the moment, focusing on the immediate problem. "You're hurt," he said, reaching for the medkit attached to his belt. "Will you let me treat your wound?" Nora eyed the medkit warily but nodded. As Finn began to clean and dress her injury, he couldn't help but marvel at her alien physiology. Her blood seemed to have both liquid and crystalline properties, and her skin was incredibly resilient. "Why do you help me, human Finn?" Nira asked, her violet eyes never leaving his face. Finn shrugged, applying a nano-seal bandage to her wound. "It's the right thing to do. Where I come from, we try to help those in need, regardless of where they're from." Nira was silent for a moment, processing his words. Your people must be very different from those I've encountered among the stars." "I'd like to think so," Finn said with a small smile. "There, that should hold for now. Can you stand?" He offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Nira took it. As she rose to her full height, Finn had to crane his neck to look up at her. She towered over him by at least 2 feet. "My ship isn't far," Finn said, gesturing towards a nearby ridge. "I have better medical equipment there, and it'll be safer than staying out in the open. Will you come with me?" The trek to Finn's ship was arduous. Nora's injury slowed their pace, and the alien terrain seemed to grow more treacherous with each step. Crystalline formations jutted from the ground like jagged teeth, their edges glinting dangerously in the fading light. "We're almost there," Finn reassured, supporting Nira as she stumbled. The alien warrior's pride was evident in her refusal to lean on him fully, but he could see the pain etched on her face. A low, rumbling growl stopped them in their tracks. Finn's hand instinctively went to his pulse rifle, eyes scanning the purple-hued landscape. "Vexa beast," Nira hissed, her body tensing. "We must move. Quickly." No sooner had the words left her mouth than a massive creature burst from behind a cluster of crystal formations. It was unlike anything Finn had ever seen, 6-limbed, with a hide that seemed to shift and change color like a chameleon. Its maw was filled with rows of serrated teeth, and multiple eyes dotted its elongated head. "Run!" Finn shouted, firing his pulse rifle at the creature. The energy bolts seemed to barely phase it, singing its hide, but doing little to slow its charge. They sprinted towards the ship, the Vexa beast hot on their heels. Nora, despite her injury, kept pace with Finn, her warrior training evident in every fluid movement. "Your weapon is useless," she called out between breaths. "We must outsmart it." Finn's mind raced. There was still a good distance from the ship, and the Vexa beast was gaining on them. Then an idea struck him. "The crystals," he gasped. "They refract light, if we can blind it." Nara nodded, understanding immediately. As they ran, she scooped up a handful of smaller crystal shards from the ground. With uncanny precision, she'd hurled them at the pursuing creature, aiming for its multiple eyes. The effect was instantaneous. The crystals shattered against the Vexa beast's face, creating a dazzling array of light refractions. The creature rolled in confusion, shaking its massive head as it temporarily lost sight of its prey. Finn and Nira seized the opportunity, doubling their pace. They could see the ship now, its sleek form a welcome sight against the alien landscape. "Almost there," Finn panted, fumbling for the remote activator on his wrist. The ship's entry ramp began to lower, agonizingly slow. Behind them, the Vexa beast had recovered and was once again in pursuit, its thunderous footfalls growing closer by the second. "Go," Nira shouted, pushing Finn ahead. "I will hold it off." Before Finn could protest, Nira spun to face the creature. Her hands moved in a blur, and suddenly she was wielding a weapon that seemed to materialize from thin air, a staff of pulsing energy, crackling with power. Finn watched in awe as Nira engaged the Vexa beast. Despite her injury, she moved with incredible grace and speed, dodging the creature's attacks and landing blows with her energy staff. It was like watching a deadly dance, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. But even Nora's skill couldn't hold off the beast forever. Finn could see her strength waning, her movements becoming slower. "Nira," he called out. "The ramp is down. Come on." With one final powerful strike that sent the Vexa beast reeling, Nira disengaged and sprinted for the ship. Finn laid down, covering fire with his pulse rifle, more to distract the creature than to harm it. They tumbled into the ship's airlock just as the Vexa beast made a final lunge. The doors hissed shut, the sound of claws scraping against metal echoing through the chamber. For a moment, they lay there, gasping for breath. Then, to Finn's surprise, Nira began to laugh, a melodious sound that filled the small space. "You fight well, for a species so small," she said, her violet eyes twinkling with amusement. Finn couldn't help but chuckle. And you're not so bad yourself for someone who was bleeding out an hour ago. As the adrenaline of their escape faded, Finn became acutely aware of their proximity. Nira's alien beauty was even more striking up close, the shimmer of her skin, the depth of her eyes, the strength and grace evident in every line of her body. He cleared his throat, suddenly flustered. We should, get you to the medical bay. That wound needs proper treatment. Nira nodded, allowing Finn to help her to her feet. As they made their way through the ship, Finn couldn't help but marvel at the turn his expedition had taken. He had come seeking new life forms to study, and instead found himself allied with an alien warrior, fleeing from both mysterious hunters and terrifying beasts. In the medical bay, Finn set about treating Nira's wound with his more advanced equipment. As he worked, he couldn't resist asking the questions that had been burning in his mind. So, who are you really, Nira? And who are these hunters after you? Nira was silent for a long moment, her violet eyes distant. When she spoke, her voice was heavy with a weight Finn couldn't quite understand. I was, a princess of the Zar'kai people. The hunters are from a rival faction, seeking to capture me for leverage in an ages-old conflict. Finn's hands stilled as he processed this information. A princess. But why are you alone? Where are your people? Nira's gaze met his, filled with a mix of determination and sorrow. That, Finn of Earth, is a long and complicated tale. One that I fear may put you in great danger if you choose to hear it. Finn finished dressing her wound and stepped back, considering her words. Every logical part of his brain was screaming at him to take Nira to the nearest space station and wash his hands of this situation. But something deeper, a pull he couldn't quite explain, made him stand his ground. Well, he said with a small smile, I've already faced down a Vexor beast today. How much more dangerous could your story be? Nira's lips curved into a smile that was both grateful and warning. You may come to regret those words, human, but very well. I will tell you my tale, and then you must decide, will you help me, or will our paths diverge here? As Finn settled in to listen, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Nira was about to reveal would change the course of his life forever. But as he looked at the alien warrior princess, her strength and vulnerability equally evident, he knew he was already too invested to turn back now. The ship's systems hummed softly around them, a counterpoint to the alien night outside, and as Nira began her story, Finn found himself drawn into a tale of cosmic proportions, one that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe and his place in it. As Nira's tale unfolded, Finn found himself captivated. The medical bay of his ship became a portal to a vast, complex universe he had never imagined. The Zar'kai, Nira began, her voice taking on a lyrical quality, are not just warriors. We are guardians of ancient knowledge, keepers of cosmic balance. For millennia, we have watched over the younger races, guiding them from the shadows. Finn listened enthralled as Nira spoke of her people's advanced technology, their ability to manipulate energy and matter in ways that seemed like magic. The Zar'kai, she explained, had long ago achieved a level of evolution that allowed them to shed their physical forms at will, becoming beings of pure energy. But such power comes at a cost, Nira continued, her eyes growing distant. There are those among us who believe we should rule the galaxy openly, shaping it to our will. They call themselves the Dominion. The rivalry between the traditional Zar'kai and the Dominion had raged for centuries, a cold war fought in the spaces between stars. Nira, as a princess of the royal line, had been a prime target. I was to be married, she said, a hint of bitterness in her voice. A political union to strengthen our defenses against the Dominion, but I refused. Her rebellion had cost her everything. Branded a traitor by her own people, hunted by the Dominion, Nira had fled to the farthest reaches of known space. As her story concluded, Finn sat in stunned silence. His mind reeled with the implications. Humanity, it seemed, was a mere infant in a cosmos teeming with ancient, godlike civilizations. "So," Nira said, fixing Finn with her penetrating gaze, "now you know. What will you do with this knowledge, Finn of Earth?" Finn took a deep breath, considering his words carefully. "I'm just an explorer, Nira. I came out here looking for new life, new civilizations. I never imagined all of this." He gestured vaguely, encompassing the enormity of what she had revealed. "But," he continued, meeting her eyes, "I can't just walk away. Not when the fate of the galaxy might be at stake. How can I help?" A smile, warm and grateful, spread across Nira's face. "Your courage does your species credit, Finn. But are you prepared for what helping me might mean? The dangers we will face?" Finn chuckled, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "Honestly, probably not. But I'm willing to learn." With that decision made, that unlikely partnership was cemented. Over the next few days, as they charted a course to a neutral space station where Nira hoped to make contact with her allies, they fell into a routine of cultural exchange. Nira taught Finn about Zar'kai combat techniques, showing him how to channel his body's energy to enhance his strength and speed. Though he lacked the natural abilities of her people, Finn proved a quick study, his determination making up for his physical limitations. In return, Finn shared the history and culture of Earth. Nira was particularly fascinated by human art and music, spending hours listening to the collection Finn had brought from home. "Your species creates such beauty," she marveled, after listening to a classical symphony. "Despite your short lives, you strive to leave something lasting behind. It's admirable." As they trained and talked, Finn found himself growing increasingly drawn to Nira. It wasn't just her alien beauty, though that certainly played a part. It was her strength, her intelligence, the way she looked at the universe with both ancient wisdom and childlike wonder. One night, as they sat in the ship's small observation deck, watching the stars streak by, Finn worked up the courage to ask a question that had been nagging at him. "Nara," he began hesitantly, "you said your people can become pure energy. Why haven't you done that to escape? Surely it would be easier than running in physical form." Nara was quiet for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the cosmic display outside. When she spoke, her voice was soft, tinged with a vulnerability Finn hadn't heard before. "To transcend our physical form is intensely personal. It requires a level of spiritual and mental clarity that she trailed off, then turned to face Finn. "I am not ready. My anger, my fear, they anchor me to this form." Finn nodded, understanding dawning. "You're not running just from external enemies. You're trying to find yourself." "Yes," Nira admitted, a sad smile playing on her lips. "I rejected the path laid out for me, but in doing so, I lost my own way. This journey, it's as much about discovering who I truly am as it is about escaping my pursuers." Impulsively, Finn reached out, taking Nira's hand in his. Her skin was cool to the touch, with a slight vibration that reminded him of her alien nature. "Well," he said, offering a reassuring smile, "for what it's worth, I think you're pretty amazing just as you are." Nira's violet eyes widened in surprise, then softened with an emotion Finn couldn't quite name. She squeezed his hand gently, the gesture bridging the vast gulf between their species. As they sat there, hand in hand, watching the universe rush by, Finn realized that his life had irrevocably changed. He had set out to explore strange new worlds, but instead, he had found something far more precious, a connection that transcended the boundaries of space and species. The ship's computer chimed, alerting them that they were approaching their destination. Reality intruded on their moment of quiet understanding. Soon, they would be plunging back into danger, facing enemies beyond Finn's wildest imagination. But as he looked at Nira, saw the determination and hope in her eyes, Finn knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, the human explorer and the alien princess, united in their quest for freedom and self-discovery. The neutral space station loomed before them, a sprawling construct of metal and light against the backdrop of a swirling nebula. Finn guided his ship towards the docking bay, acutely aware of Nira's tension beside him. "Are you sure your contact will be here?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite his own nervousness. Nira nodded, her eyes scanning the station's exterior. "If Calthor still lies, he will come. He's the only one I trust among my people now." As they docked and made their way through the station's bustling corridors, Finn couldn't help but marvel at the diversity of life forms around them. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved about their business, a testament to the vastness of the galaxy. They found their way to a dimly lit cantina on the station's lower levels. Nora led them to a secluded booth, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. "We wait," she said simply, settling into her seat with the coiled readiness of a predator. Hours passed. Finn tried to stay alert, but the strain of constant vigilance was wearing on him. Just as he was about to suggest they leave, a hooded figure appeared at their table. "Princess," the figure said, its voice a low, melodious hum. "You live. I had feared the worst." Nora's posture relaxed slightly. "Calthor, it is good to see you, old friend." The hood fell back, revealing a being that seemed to shimmer and shift, its form never quite settling into a fixed shape. Finn blinked, trying to focus on it, but found his eyes sliding away. "And who is this?" Calthor asked, turning its attention to Finn. "A human, so far from home." "This is Finn," Nira said, a note of pride in her voice. "He saved my life and has chosen to aid our cause." Calthor studied Finn for a long moment, its gaze seeming to pierce through to his very soul. Finally, it nodded. "You have chosen well, Princess. His heart is true." Before Finn could process this strange assessment, Calthor's demeanor changed, becoming urgent. "But we have little time. The Dominion grows stronger by the day. They have found a way to forcibly evolve other species, creating an army of enhanced beings loyal to their cause." Nira's face paled. "How is this possible? Such manipulation goes against everything our people stand for." "They care little for our ancient laws now," Calthor said grimly. "But there is hope. The prophecy speaks of a union between the old and the new, a bridging of galaxies that will bring balance." Finn's head was spinning. "Wait, what prophecy? What does this have to do with us?" Calthor turned to him, its form shimmering with barely contained energy. "You, Finn of Earth, your meeting with Nira was no accident. The cosmos itself has brought you together. The prophecy speaks of a warrior princess who will renounce her crown," Nora whispered, realization dawning in her eyes. "And a star wanderer from a young race whose courage will light the way. Together," Calthor continued, "you'll unlock the cosmic forge, an artifact of immense power. With it, you can undo the Dominion's twisted evolution and restore balance to the galaxy." Finn sat back, overwhelmed. He had signed up to help Nara escape her pursuers, not to play a part in some cosmic prophecy. And yet, he couldn't deny the pull he felt, the sense that this was right. "Okay," he said slowly, "let's say I believe all this. Where do we find this cosmic forge?" "That," Calthor said, "is the challenge. It is hidden on a planet long lost to time, guarded by trials that test both body and spirit. The journey will be perilous, and success is not guaranteed." Nora reached across the table, taking Finn's hand. "I cannot ask this of you, Finn. You have already done more than I had any right to expect. If you wish to return to your home, I would understand." Finn looked at their joined hands, then up into Nora's violet eyes. In them, he saw not just the alien princess he had come to admire, but a reflection of his own yearning for purpose, for a chance to make a real difference in the universe. "I'm in," he said, surprising himself with the firmness of his voice. "Whatever it takes, wherever we need to go, I'm with you." The relief and gratitude in Nera's smile made his heart soar. Calthor nodded approvingly, its form pulsing with what Finn assumed was satisfaction. "Then it is decided," the shape-shifting being said. I will provide you with the coordinates and what little information we have about the planet. The rest will be up to you." As Califor shared the details of their quest, Finn felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was about to embark on a journey beyond his wildest dreams, facing dangers he could scarcely imagine. But as he looked at Nira, saw the determination and hope in her eyes, he knew he was making the right choice. They left the cantina with a new sense of purpose, their path now clear. As they walked back to the ship, Finn couldn't help but chuckle. "What amuses you?" Nira asked, her head tilted in curiosity. "Just thinking," Finn replied with a grin. "When I set out to explore the galaxy, I never imagined I'd end up on a quest to save it." Nira's laughter, bright and melodious, echoed through the station's corridors. Life, it seems, had greater plans for both of us. As they prepared for the next leg of their journey, Finn realized that he had found something he hadn't even known he was looking for, not just adventure, but a cause worth fighting for, and a partner he would follow to the ends of the universe. The stars beckoned, holding both promise and peril. Whatever trials lay ahead, Finn and Nira would face them together, their unlikely alliance now forged into something stronger. A bond that just might save the galaxy. The coordinates Califor provided led Finn and Nira to a remote sector of space, far beyond the edges of known galactic maps. As they dropped out of hyperspace, a planet materialized before them, a swirling mass of stormy atmosphere surrounding a rocky core. "That doesn't look very inviting," Finn muttered, running scans on the hostile environment. Nora leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. "The greatest treasures are often the best hidden, Finn. We must be prepared for anything." As if in response to her words, the ship's proximity alarms blared to life. A massive vessel emerged from behind the planet's largest moon, its sleek design unmistakably of Zar'kai origin. "Dominion," Nora hissed, her body tensing. They must have decoded the prophecy as well. Finn's hands flew over the controls, prepping the ship's defenses. So much for the element of surprise. Any ideas? Before Nira could respond, a transmission cut through their communications channel. A face appeared on the view screen, strikingly similar to Nira's, but with eyes that glowed an eerie red. "Little princess," the figure sneered, "how kind of you to deliver yourself to us. And you've brought a pet. How charming." Nira's jaw clenched. "Vexara, I should have known my treacherous cousin would be behind this." Vexara's laugh was cold and mirthless. "Treacherous? I prefer visionary. Now, be a good girl and surrender. Perhaps we'll even let you a human live, as a test subject for our evolution process." Finn's mind raced, assessing their options. The Dominion ship outgunned them in every way, and the planet below was a dangerous unknown. But surrendering wasn't an option, not with the fate of the galaxy at stake. "Nora," he said quietly, an idea forming, "how good are you at atmospheric piloting?" A slow smile spread across Nira's face as she caught on to his plan. "Better than any Dominion lackey, I assure you." "Then hold on tight," Finn grinned, cutting the transmission and throwing the ship into a steep dive towards the planet. The Dominion vessel gave chase, energy weapons lancing out and barely missing their hull. Finn's hands danced over the controls, pushing his ship to its limits as they plunged into the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Lightning crackled around them, and hurricane-force winds buffeted the ship. But Finn and Nira worked in perfect sync, anticipating each other's moves as they wove through the storm. "They're still on us," Nira called out, monitoring the rear sensors. "But they're struggling with the atmospheric conditions." Finn nodded grimly. "Let's see if we can lose them in that canyon up ahead." They dove deeper, skimming the surface of rocky plateaus and dodging massive floating islands suspended by some unknown force. The Dominion ship, larger and less maneuverable, fell behind, unable to match their daring flight. Just as Finn thought they might escape, a massive bolt of energy struck their left engine. Alarms blared as the ship began to lose altitude. "We're going down," Finn shouted, fighting the controls. Brace for impact. They hit the ground hard, skidding across a field of glowing crystals before coming to a stop at the base of a towering cliff. For a moment, all was silent save for the hiss of cooling metal and the distant rumble of thunder. Nira. Finn coughed, unbuckling himself from the pilot's seat. Are you all right? I've had softer landings, Nira groaned, extricating herself from a tangle of loose wiring. But I'll live. We need to move. The Dominion won't be far behind. They grabbed what supplies they could salvage and emerged from the wreckage. The landscape around them was alien and foreboding. Jagged crystal formations jutted from the ground, pulsing with an inner light, while the sky above roiled with perpetual storms. Any idea where we're going? Finn asked, scanning the horizon for signs of pursuit. Nira closed her eyes, seeming to concentrate. When she opened them again, they glowed faintly with an inner light. I can sense something. An energy source, ancient and powerful. It must be the cosmic forge. This way. They set off across the crystalline terrain, each step sending ripples of light through the ground beneath their feet. The air was thick and charged with energy, making Finn's skin tingle. They had barely made it a mile when the sound of engines filled the air. The Dominion ship appeared overhead, hovering menacingly. Run! Nira shouted, just as energy beams began to rain down around them. They sprinted across the uneven ground, dodging blasts and leaping over chasms. Finn's lungs burned, his muscles screaming in protest, but he pushed on, driven by desperation and the knowledge of what was at stake. Just when it seemed they couldn't go on, Nira pulled Finn into a narrow crevice in the cliff face. They pressed themselves against the cool crystal walls, breathing heavily as the Dominion ship passed overhead. We can't keep this up, Finn panted. We need a plan. Nira nodded, her face set in determination. We're close to the forge, I can feel it. But you're right, we need to deal with our pursuers. She closed her eyes again, concentrating. To Finn's amazement, her body began to glow faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the crystals around them. The planet, she said, her voice taking on an ethereal quality. It's alive in a way. These crystals, they're conduits for its energy. If I can tap into that power. Finn watched in awe as Nira's form began to shimmer, becoming less solid. She was attempting to transcend her physical form, he realized, something she had been unable to do before. Finn, she said, her voice echoing strangely, I need you to be my anchor. Focus on our connection, on why we're here. Your humanity, your determination, it gives me strength. Without hesitation, Finn took her hand, marveling at how it felt both solid and insubstantial at the same time. He thought of their journey together, of the bond they had formed, of the future they were fighting for. Energy crackled around them, building to a crescendo. Just as the Dominion forces began to close in on their hiding spot, Nira let out a cry of triumph. A wave of pure energy exploded outward, channeled through the crystalline landscape. The Dominion ship's systems overloaded, sending it crashing to the ground. The foot soldiers pursuing them stumbled, their enhanced bodies unable to cope with the surge of raw power. As the energy wave dissipated, Nira collapsed into Finn's arms, her form solid once more. Did it work? She asked weakly. Finn peered out of their hiding spot, seeing the Dominion forces scattered and disoriented. It worked, he said with a grin. You did it, Nira. You were amazing. She smiled up at him, exhausted but triumphant. We did it, Finn, together. As they emerged from their shelter, ready to make the final push towards the cosmic forge, Finn realized that they had achieved something monumental. Not just a tactical victory, but a personal one as well. Nira had overcome her inner turmoil, tapping into abilities she thought lost to her. And Finn had discovered depths of courage and resourcefulness he never knew he possessed. The path ahead was still fraught with danger, but as they set off towards their destiny, Finn felt a surge of hope. Whatever challenges the cosmic forge might present, he and Nira would face them as one, a union of human and Zar'kai, of old and new, ready to reshape the fate of the galaxy. The cosmic forge loomed before them, a massive structure of swirling energy and ancient technology. Its spires reached towards the stormy sky, pulsing with power that made the air itself vibrate. Finn and Nira stood at its base, battered and exhausted, but filled with a sense of awe and purpose. "We made it," Finn breathed, his voice barely audible over the hum of energy surrounding them. Nira nodded, her eyes fixed on the forge's entrance. "The final trial awaits us inside. Are you ready, Finn of Earth?" He took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this." They stepped into the forge, and the world around them seemed to shift and warp. Reality became fluid, time and space, bending in ways Finn's mind struggled to comprehend. They found themselves in a vast chamber, its walls lined with shimmering portals showing glimpses of different times and places across the galaxy. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, upon which rested what could only be the cosmic forge itself, a device that looked like a fusion of advanced technology and pure energy. "Impressive, isn't it?" A familiar voice echoed through the chamber. Vexara stepped out from behind a column, her red eyes gleaming with malice. "A shame you won't live to use it." Finn tensed, ready for a fight, but Nira held up a hand. "Cousin," she said, her voice calm but firm, "it doesn't have to be this way. The forge isn't meant for one faction to control, it's meant to bring balance." Vexara laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. "Balance? There is no balance in this universe, little princess. There is only power and those too weak to seek it." "You're wrong," Finn interjected, surprising himself with his boldness. "I see more of this galaxy than I ever dreamed possible. There's darkness, yes, but there's also beauty, compassion, and hope. That's worth fighting for." For a moment, something flickered in Vexara's eyes, a hint of doubt, perhaps, but it was quickly replaced by cold determination. Pretty words from a primitive species. Let's see how they stand up to real power. She lunged forward, her body crackling with the enhanced energy of the Dominion's forced evolution. Nira met her charge, the two Zar'kai warriors clashing in a blur of motion that Finn could barely follow. As they fought, Finn made his way towards the cosmic forge. He didn't know exactly how to use it, but he knew they couldn't let it fall into the wrong hands. Nira and Vexara's battle raged across the chamber, each matching the other blow for blow. But Finn could see that Nira was tiring, the toll of their journey and her earlier energy expenditure catching up with her. Just as Vexara gained the upper hand, pinning Nira against a wall, Finn reached the forge. He placed his hands on the device and immediately felt a surge of energy course through him. Knowledge flooded his mind, the history of the galaxy, the intricate balance of cosmic forces, the true purpose of the forge. "Enough," he shouted, his voice amplified by the forge's power. Vexara turned, her eyes widening in shock as she saw Finn wielding the ancient artifact. "Impossible," she hissed. "A human could never." "The forge doesn't care about species or factions," Finn said, understanding flowing through him. "It cares about intent, about the balance between progress and preservation, between change and tradition." He looked at Nira, seeing the trust and love in her eyes, then back to Vexara. "Your evolution isn't evil, Vexara. The desire to improve, to grow, that's natural. But forcing it on others, using it to dominate, that's where you've gone wrong." Finn closed his eyes, channeling the forge's power. A wave of energy pulsed out from the device, washing over Vexara. She cried out, her body shimmering as the forced evolution was undone. When it was over, she fell to her knees, gasping, What have you done to me?" "I've given you a choice," Finn said gently. "The power is still within you, but now it's yours to control, to use wisely." Nira approached her cousin, offering a hand. "Come home, Vexara. Help us rebuild. Together we can find a better way forward for our people." Vexara looked at the offered hand, then up at Nira and Finn. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out and took it. As the three of them stood there, the cosmic forge began to pulse with renewed energy. The portals around the chamber flickered to life, showing scenes of healing and reconciliation across the galaxy. The Dominion's forced evolution was being undone, balance restored. "It's beautiful," Nora whispered, watching as countless worlds were set right. Finn nodded, feeling the forge's power begin to ebb from him. But it's not over. The forge isn't meant to be used just once and forgotten. It needs guardians to maintain the balance. He turned to Nora, taking both her hands in his. "I know this isn't my world, and I'm not of your people, but if you'll have me, I'd like to stay. To help." Nira's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Finn, you've become more than just an ally. You're a part of me now. Of course I want you to stay." Their lips met in a kiss that seemed to bridge galaxies, a union of human and Zar'kai that embodied the very balance they had fought to restore. As they parted, Vexara cleared her throat. "Well, if you two are quite finished, we have a galaxy to rebuild." Finn laughed, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. "Right, where do we start?" Nira smiled, her eyes twinkling with the promise of adventures to come. "We start by going home. All of us, and then we shape the future together." Hand in hand, Finn and Nira stepped through one of the forge's portals, with Vexara following close behind. They emerged on the Zar'kai world, its twin suns painting the sky in hues of gold and purple. As they walked towards the gleaming cities in the distance, Finn marveled at the journey that had brought him here. He had set out to explore the stars, never imagining he would find love, purpose, and a new home among them. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges to face, prejudices to overcome, and a galaxy still healing from conflict. But as Finn looked at Nira, saw the determination and hope in her eyes, he knew that together they could face anything. Their story, the tale of a human explorer and an alien princess who had saved the galaxy, was already spreading among the stars. But for Finn and Nira, it wasn't an ending. It was just the beginning of a greater adventure, one that would span worlds and touch countless lives. As the sun set on their first day in this new life, Finn pulled Nira close. "So," he said with a grin, "what's our next mission?" Nira laughed, the sound filled with joy and promise. "My dear Finn, with you by my side, every day is a new mission, and I can't wait to see where it takes us." And so, under alien skies, a new chapter began, not just for Finn and Nira, but for the entire galaxy. A future where understanding bridged the gaps between species, where balance was maintained not through force but through compassion, and where love could flourish even in the most unexpected places. The stars twinkled above, bearing witness to this new beginning. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, the cosmic forge hummed contentedly, its power now guarded by those who truly understood its purpose. The galaxy was healing, growing, evolving, not through forced change, but through the combined strength of countless beings choosing to work together for a brighter future. For Finn and Nira, standing at the dawn of this new era, the greatest adventure of all was just beginning.